Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is Zachary Kane. I'm 39, or at least I was when this all began. At the time, I thought I had everything figured out: successful career, loyal clients, and a sense of pride in the company I'd helped build. I was the senior account executive at Tech, a fast-growing B2B solutions firm. I'd been there for over 7 years. Built it from the ground up, really. The early days were rough, sure, back when we were operating out of a dusty converted warehouse with bad lighting and even worse coffee, but we made it work. We were family. Or so I thought. In those days, I wasn't just a name on the payroll. I was the guy who made the impossible deals happen. The guy who remembered kids' birthdays, who showed up to clients' weddings, funerals, baby showers, you name it. Over time, those relationships turned into the company's biggest accounts. And when I say big, I mean millions per quarter. I was the top performer for 6 straight years. Had the plaques to prove it. Well, I used to. They're probably in a storage closet now, or maybe in a dumpster behind the building. Because all of that, those years of loyalty, results, dedication, meant absolutely nothing the day Tyler Pearson walked into the office. Tyler was fresh from some high-gloss, buzzword-saturated startup in San Francisco. Hair too perfect, smile too polished. He wore confidence like a cheap cologne, strong, overwhelming, and hard to ignore. Within 3 weeks, he was promoted to VP of Sales. My new boss. He strutted around using words like synergy and aggressive vertical alignment like they meant something. I could tell from the first meeting, he didn't understand our business, and worse, he didn't care to. He wanted quick wins. Flashy moves. Restructure for the sake of looking busy. But I didn't push back. I just kept my head down and focused on my clients. Then came the quarterly review. The one where I closed the biggest quarter in Tech's history. $9.3 million in booked revenue, 60% of it from accounts I personally managed. I expected congratulations. A raise maybe. At the very least, some damn respect. Instead, I got. "We're going in a different direction," Tyler said, with that signature smug half-smile. "Thanks for everything, but we need people who fit the new model." Just like that. No warning. No conversation. No real explanation. I was out. I remember the exact moment. It seared into my memory like a scar. I didn't say a word. Didn't argue. Didn't beg. I just stood up, straightened my jacket, and nodded. "Got it. Best of luck." He looked almost disappointed. Like he'd been expecting a scene. Maybe even hoping for one so he could justify the story he was already planning to tell about me to the rest of the company. Something about resistance to change or personality conflict. Whatever garbage narrative made him feel like he'd won. But I gave him nothing. I walked out without even taking the plaques from my office. Let him keep them. Symbols meant nothing now. HR gave me the standard spiel. Exit checklist. Laptop return. Non-compete reminders. The woman across the desk looked uncomfortable, like she knew this was wrong but didn't have the power to say so. "Good luck with everything, Zachary," she whispered. Her voice cracked just a little. That's when I knew it wasn't just me. People were watching. As I rode the elevator down, I wasn't angry. Not yet. Something colder had settled in. A clarity. Tyler had just made the biggest mistake of his career, and he didn't even know it. Because what he didn't realize was this. Those accounts he thought belonged to Tech. They were never his. They were mine. Not because of contracts or CRMs. But because of something he could never fake or replicate: trust. I sat in my car in the parking garage, just staring out at the rain-slicked city for a long time. My phone buzzed. It was Brian. The biggest client I'd ever landed. The kind of guy who'd become more than a client, he was a friend. "You free for lunch tomorrow?" 3 hours after I was fired. The universe doesn't waste time. I smiled for the first time all day. I didn't call anyone else. I didn't have to. Because by nightfall, they called me. Jason, who ran a healthcare startup I'd helped scale. Dave, my contact at a national supply chain network. Allison from a major logistics firm. One by one, they were confused, furious, asking what the hell was going on. "My new account manager just called," Jason said. "Kid sounded like he still lives with his parents." "Some intern says he's taking over our file," Dave said. "Is this a joke?" Allison's voice cracked when she called. "They let you go? Are they insane?" No one believed the story Tyler had started pushing internally, that I was outdated, resistant, slow to adapt. Because the people who mattered knew the truth. The truth was, Tyler didn't understand what I did because it couldn't be seen on a spreadsheet. It wasn't just sales. It was loyalty. Trust. Years of consistency, of showing up, of delivering on promises that others wouldn't even make. That night, I sat on my back patio, bourbon in hand, city lights twinkling in the distance. No rage. Just one thought playing in my mind like a drumbeat. You cut me out. Now watch what you lose. When I woke up the next morning, the sun was already high in the sky. No alarm. No morning rush. No emails. No calendar pings. Just silence. You'd think a man who'd just been fired would be scrambling, panicked, frantically applying for jobs, calling contacts. But I wasn't doing any of that. I just sat in my kitchen, staring at my untouched coffee, thinking about how easily my entire identity had been ripped away. 7 years. Gone in 47 seconds. You don't realize how much of your self-worth is tied to your work until the work is gone. I tried to tell myself it was just a job. But it wasn't. Not to me. Tech had been more than my career, it had been my home, my purpose, my pride. I was there when we couldn't afford branded pens. I was the one flying cross-country red-eye to save fragile deals, working through weekends, giving everything I had. I'd skipped vacations, missed anniversaries, because I believed in what we were building. I had bled for that company. And in return, I got a cold smile and a "we're going in a different direction." The emotional weight hit me like a freight train. It wasn't just betrayal. It was grief. I grieved the loyalty I'd given. The relationships I thought were mutual. The dreams I'd had of retiring at a Tech as a partner or director. I even grieved for my younger self, the one who believed hard work and results were all that mattered. I felt like a fool. And maybe I was. Because the truth is, I'd seen it coming. Tyler had been circling like a vulture for weeks. Sitting in on client calls uninvited. Requesting performance metrics he didn't understand. Asking junior reps about cultural fit. I brushed it off. Thought it was just him finding his footing. But no. He was planning this. He wanted a scapegoat for whatever he had in mind. He couldn't match my numbers, so he framed me as obsolete. And the worst part? No one stood up for me. Not HR. Not the CEO. Not even people I mentored, people I'd gone to bat for. They all just watched. That broke something in me. I spent the next couple of days drifting through my routine like a ghost. My wife, Emma, tried to be supportive, but I could see the worry in her eyes. I didn't have the energy to fake strength for her. I wasn't angry, not yet. I was just hollow. What made it worse was how quickly the company moved on. On LinkedIn, I saw a post from Accenture's official page, welcoming a bold new era in sales leadership. Meet our restructured client success team, led by Tyler Pearson, focused on innovation and modern growth. The picture showed Tyler shaking hands with the CEO, smiling, like nothing had happened. My name was nowhere. Not a single acknowledgement of the quarter I'd just led. Not one word about the man who'd kept their doors open when they were on the brink. I stared at that post until my vision blurred. I wanted to scream. To throw my phone through the window. Instead, I turned it off. That night, Brian took me out for dinner. We went to Lincroft Grill, our usual spot. Same booth. Same order. But it felt different. Like something sacred had been damaged. He kept shaking his head. I still can't believe they did that to you. I shrugged. You'd think after all these years, I'd matter. You do, he said firmly. Just not to them. A few days later, I got a call from someone I hadn't expected, Sabrina. She was a mid-level manager at Accenture. Smart, tough, loyal. I'd vouched for her when she got passed up for a promotion 2 years ago. Zach, she said quietly. I shouldn't even be calling, but you need to know, they're rewriting the narrative. What do you mean? Tyler's been telling people you were underperforming. That your numbers were inflated. That clients only stuck around out of inertia. I clenched my jaw so hard I heard something pop. He's using you as an excuse, she continued. Says the new model needed to eliminate legacy obstacles. Legacy obstacles. That's what I was now. An obstacle. I thanked Sabrina and hung up. That was the moment something in me snapped. The despair didn't leave, it transformed. Into rage. Quiet, focused, precise rage. They hadn't just fired me, they were trying to erase me. Rewrite history. Smear my name to justify their incompetence. But I had something Tyler didn't understand. Something he didn't even value. Relationships. The next day, I pulled out a notebook and started writing down names. Brian. Jason. Allison. Dave. Max, Rita. Sophia. 18 accounts. 18 people who didn't know Accenture. They knew me. They didn't buy software. They bought trust. My word. My commitment. And now, those same people were reaching out to me, not the company, asking for answers. They were angry, confused, and increasingly dissatisfied with the junior reps Tyler had assigned. All I had to do, was listen. I didn't need to poach. I didn't need to persuade. I just had to be available. By the end of that week, 10 of them had already paused their projects. I didn't celebrate. I didn't laugh. But I did decide. I wasn't going to roll over. I wasn't going to lick my wounds and fade away. If Tyler wanted to play this game, fine. But he forgot one thing. I taught him the rules. There's a strange clarity that comes after betrayal. Once the shock wears off, once the grief burns down to embers, all that's left is the truth. And the truth was, I knew things Tyler didn't. Things he couldn't know. See, when you work somewhere for 7 years, when you build it from a warehouse startup to a multimillion-dollar firm, you don't just clock in and out, you embed yourself into the architecture of the company. You learn its rhythm, its patterns, its secrets. And in my case, I was the architecture. Tyler thought I was just an old-school account exec, good at handshakes and holiday cards. What he never understood, what the board never appreciated, was that I didn't just build client relationships. I built processes, pipelines, data architecture. I designed the client lifecycle system that Accenture still used. Every workflow. Every automated email. Every customer retention trigger. The way we bundled services, the strategy for client onboarding, the sequence of quarterly check-ins, that was me. He didn't know it, but Tyler had walked into a castle I'd built with my bare hands and kicked out the architect, without checking the blueprints. So I started digging. At first, it was just curiosity. A way to feel less helpless. I reviewed my old files, backups, industry documents. But the deeper I went, the more I realized something crucial. Tyler was gambling with an infrastructure he didn't understand. Worse, he was altering it. And not well. Through a couple of back-channel chats with friends still on the inside, including Sabrina, who was now quietly feeding me intel, I found out he had already begun rewriting the CRM's auto-assignment algorithm. The one that dictated which clients went to which reps. I had spent years perfecting that system. It didn't just sort by region or size. It matched based on relationship history, industry type, personality compatibility, and preferred communication style. It was subtle. But it worked. It's why our retention rate was so high. And now? He'd replaced it with a priority value matrix. Something buzzwordy that assigned high-revenue clients to hungry junior reps to maximize engagement potential. Translation. He was throwing high-stakes accounts at kids with no experience. And it was already backfiring. Jason, one of my oldest clients, forwarded me an email chain. His new rep had tried to upsell him during a product bug escalation ticket. Another client, Sophia, told me her new contact missed a scheduled onboarding call. Twice. It was chaos. And Tyler had no idea that I still had access to a backup mirror of our client performance dashboard, an archived copy from my final month, stored securely in my personal drive. Legal, by the way. I didn't steal proprietary data. It was my own analytics work. The numbers told a grim story. Within 3 weeks of my firing, client satisfaction had dropped by 31%. But that wasn't the secret. The real secret came from a note I'd nearly forgotten about, until one night, buried in my files, I opened it. Contract Addendum, Client Data Portability and Retention Clause 12b. It was a clause I had personally advocated for years earlier, during a policy revision when we were dealing with client migration concerns. The clause guaranteed that clients owned full rights to their usage data, and could request a complete export at any time, no penalties. Here's what that meant. If a client asked for all their usage data, implementation logs, integration records, and process documentation, Accentrotech had to give it to them. Cleanly. Within 5 business days. No games. And yet, according to Jason and Dave, that's not what was happening. Jason had asked for his data. They stalled. Gave him vague answers. Said the legal department was reviewing the request. Then, days later, claimed their contract didn't guarantee that level of access. He sent me the email. I compared it with the clause. It was a lie. Accentrotech was stonewalling. That's when I realized. They weren't just trying to replace me. They were trying to trap my clients. Hold them hostage by making transitions as painful as possible. And now. Now I had proof. That night, I called Jessica Lowe, VP of Sales at Rendell Core, one of Accentrotech's biggest competitors. We'd met at a few industry panels. Cordial. Respectful. Competitive, sure, but honest. Jessica had heard the rumors. Word is, they fired their golden goose. I guess eggs weren't enough, I replied. She laughed. You working anywhere yet? Not officially. Consulting a bit. You free for lunch tomorrow? I didn't even hesitate. Absolutely. We met at a quiet place on the edge of the city. Jessica was sharp, no nonsense, with a reputation for backing the right horses. And she already knew about the clause. I've seen those contracts. If what you're saying is true, she trailed off. I slid a printed copy of Clause 12b across the table. It's not a threat. It's a fact. And the clients? They're pissed. All they want is what they're owed. She leaned back, nodding. You've got leverage. I'm not trying to destroy a Centratech, I said. She raised an eyebrow. Aren't you? I paused. I'm trying to protect people I care about. Jessica smirked. Either way, I think I can help. That conversation set everything in motion. Jessica offered me a consulting role at Rendellcore with one condition: if any of my former clients approached her company for service, and chose to transition, she wanted my help onboarding them smoothly. Not poaching. Not selling. Just ensuring they weren't stranded. I agreed. And that weekend, I sent every former client a simple document. Understanding your contractual rights, Clause 12b. No threats. No instructions. Just a quiet reminder: you own your data. And you have the right to leave if you choose. By Monday, half of them had already submitted formal export requests. Tyler didn't know it yet. But I had just flipped the switch. When I left that lunch meeting with Jessica, I didn't feel vindicated. Not yet. But I did feel something I hadn't felt since the day I was fired. Power. It wasn't about titles or status anymore. It was about something deeper. Tyler thought I'd disappear quietly. He never imagined I'd be the one designing the playbook for his downfall. And the best part? I didn't have to break a single law. All I had to do was tell the truth. Back home, I started mapping everything out. I didn't just want a personal win, I wanted to burn down the lie Tyler had built on top of my work. The new regime at Centratech was all optics, no substance. And that meant it was fragile. You don't beat people like Tyler by shouting louder. You beat them by pulling the rug out so slowly they don't even realize they're falling until they hit the floor. So I got to work. Phase 1, protect the people who matter. My first move was to contact every former client who had reached out after I left. I wasn't pushing a sale, I was offering help. Guidance. A hand through the fog Centratech was creating. I called it the Clarity Initiative. I created a private client resource hub, a secure, password-protected site where clients could download templates to file export requests under Clause 12b. Access checklists for data transition and system backups. Read anonymized testimonials from other clients going through the same stonewalling. I didn't touch company secrets. Just reminded people of what they already had rights to. Then I hosted 2 casual business lunches in Cincinnati, one on each side of the city. No sales pitch. No branding. Just conversation. I brought together former clients who had never met. Let them talk. Compare notes. And that's when it happened. They realized they were all being manipulated the same way. Suddenly, it wasn't just Jason had trouble with onboarding or Sophia got ghosted by her rep, it was a pattern. A strategy. A coordinated effort by Centratech to delay transitions, confuse clients, and keep them locked in while pretending nothing was wrong. It was sabotage disguised as retention strategy. And when they figured that out, they weren't just angry. They were furious. Phase 2, rebuild with purpose. While that fire smoldered at Centratech, I shifted focus to Rendellcore, my new consulting home. Jessica gave me the green light to design something from scratch. Client Experience 2.0. It was everything I'd tried to build at Centratech, only this time, without bureaucracy or ego getting in the way. I handpicked 3 former colleagues who had quietly left Centratech. Sabrina was one of them. So was Leo, a brilliant CRM engineer they'd overlooked for years. And Natalie, our most empathetic client rep, who had been passed up for promotion 3 times. They were talented. Loyal. And they knew what we were up against. Together, we built a division focused on relationship-first service, autonomous onboarding, client advocacy teams to navigate complex integrations. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't buzzwordy. But it was bulletproof. Phase 3, let the truth spread. By now, word was getting out. Tyler's changes weren't just failing, they were crashing. Jason called me. "They're trying to stop me from leaving," he said. "Said there'd be delays in exporting our data due to unexpected maintenance." I already had the documents ready. I walked him through the clause line by line. Gave him the exact email language to use. And then I told him something important. "You're not alone in this. They've done it to others. But they can't do it forever." The next day, 4 other clients made identical demands. All citing Clause 12b. All referencing identical rights. They were coordinating. I wasn't pulling strings. I was just giving them the scissors to cut the strings Tyler had tied around them. One client, Allison, recorded a call with a junior rep who threatened early termination fees for leaving. That was illegal. She sent it to me. I passed it to Jessica's legal team. They were salivating. But then came the call I didn't expect. Jennifer Murray, the CEO of Accentrotech. "Zachary," she said, her voice tight, "we need to talk." Oh. Now I'm valuable again. Several major accounts are threatening legal action. You seem to be involved. I haven't contacted anyone, Jennifer. Your clients have questions. I'm just helping them find answers. She hesitated. Tyler's tactics weren't sanctioned. They were implemented. That's what matters. She sighed. Would you consider coming back? EVP. Direct access to the board. 15% bump in salary. I laughed. It wasn't cruel. Just genuine disbelief. You want me to return to the house that threw me out, fix what someone else broke, and pretend it never happened? Zachary. I've already built something better. Then I hung up. Phase 4, cut the anchor. The final piece of my plan wasn't flashy. It wasn't public. But it was devastating. Remember that client dashboard archive I'd saved? It also contained predictive churn analysis, models I had designed to warn the company which clients were at risk of leaving based on certain behaviors. The version they had now was a stripped-down clone Tyler commissioned. Mine was better. And I'd kept the last model from my final week on the job. I sent it, completely anonymized, to my clients. Along with an explanation. This is how Accentrotech views your loyalty. As a probability. A risk factor. Not a relationship. It wasn't malicious. It was truth. And nothing spreads faster than truth in a room full of people who've been lied to. The first domino didn't fall with a bang. It fell with an email. Subject line, North Spire Apparel, account termination notice. North Spire was Brian's company, my biggest client. A $5.2 million per year partnership. And now. It was officially severed. His message to Accentrotech was brief, clinical, and brutal. Due to continued non-compliance with contractual data accessibility terms and persistent delays in transition support, we are terminating our partnership effective immediately. Our legal counsel will follow up. It hit Accentrotech's C-suite like a punch to the throat. The biggest fish in the tank was gone. Within 48 hours, 3 more clients followed. They didn't all cite data delays. Some cited poor communication. Others cited loss of relationship value or strategic realignment. But everyone in the industry knew what was happening. The Barrett accounts were bleeding out. And yet, I still hadn't done a thing that violated my non-compete. No active solicitation. No confidential information. I was simply being available, and the truth was doing the rest. Tech tried to spin it. They sent a PR email blast to remaining clients, claiming they were streamlining client success for a modern marketplace. But no one was buying it. Not when their top enterprise clients were leaving in droves. Not when LinkedIn chatter was full of polite but pointed posts from executives praising integrity and transparent transitions. And then, just when I thought things were starting to settle, Jessica burst into my office at Rendlecore. "Zach," she said, waving her phone. "You need to see this." She handed it to me. It was a forwarded email. From a contractor inside Tech's data operations team. Subject, Retention Protocol, Barrett Legacy Accounts. Attached was a spreadsheet, names, emails, company IDs, plus a column labeled Delay Strategy. Next to each client's name were phrases like Export Hold, System Maintenance Excuse, Q2-24. Legal Delay Recommended. Escalation, No Direct Response, Route Through Intern. I froze. They weren't just being sloppy or disorganized. They were strategically obstructing their own clients, my clients, from leaving. And there it was in writing. I stared at that screen, a chill crawling up my spine. Because this wasn't incompetence anymore. It was war. Jessica moved fast. Her legal team filed a cease and desist against Tech for breach of contract interference. We also notified every client listed in the spreadsheet. After all, they were the victims. Some of them were already preparing lawsuits. Others pulled out immediately. But I had something more important to do. I called Sabrina. "You ever wonder how far they're willing to go?" I asked her. "Zach," she said quietly. "You don't know the half of it." That's when she sent me a recording. It was a conference call between Tyler and several mid-level managers. Tyler's voice was sharp, arrogant, full of pressure. "We can't lose the Barrett pipeline. I don't care if they're angry. Stall, escalate, stonewall. Tell legal to reinterpret the portability clause. And if any of them reach out to him, we document it. We build a case." Silence. Then someone else. "But he hasn't violated anything." I said build a case, Tyler snapped. "Make one." My jaw clenched so hard I thought I might break a molar. They were trying to set me up. To discredit me. To bury their mistake under manufactured accusations. But Tyler had made a fatal miscalculation. He assumed I'd play the game his way. He didn't realize I'd already won. That night, I stayed late at the office. Jessica and I met with Rendlecore's top counsel. "We have everything," she said, sliding a thick binder across the table. "Client testimonies. Emails. System logs. That spreadsheet. The audio file. You're clean, and they're cooked." She looked me in the eye. "Now we go public." I nodded. Time for the industry to know who they really are. We didn't make a press announcement or leak to tabloids. We did something quieter, and 10 times more effective. We shared a case study. It was published through Rendlecore's industry journal, co-authored by me. Titled, "The Cost of Relationship Neglect, a Case Study on Transition Mismanagement in B2B SaaS." No names. No direct references. But anyone in the business knew exactly who it was about. By morning, the article had 40,000 views. CEOs were reposting it. Industry influencers were quoting it. A quiet storm had begun. And in its eye, Tyler Pearson. 2 days later, I got the call. "Zachary? It's Jennifer Murray." Her voice was flat. Hollow. "Tyler's no longer with the company," she said after a pause. "We're restructuring." I said nothing. "We'd like to formally offer a full apology. And extend our previous offer. Higher compensation." More authority. You name it. I could almost feel her desperation through the line. Jennifer, I said. I'm not angry anymore. Just focused. Focused on building something better. There was a long pause. We'd like to discuss an acquisition. Your new firm. Rendell Corp. I raised an eyebrow. Now that was unexpected. When Jennifer Murray asked if Rendell Corp would consider acquiring Eccentrotech, I didn't answer right away. Not because I was shocked. But because I wasn't. By now, the signs were everywhere. Stockholder silence. Industry rumors. Recruiters whispering that something big was about to go down at one of the city's fastest-growing tech firms. But hearing her say it out loud, that was different. Jennifer had been my CEO. I once looked up to her. I believed in her vision. But when Tyler came in, she vanished. Stopped leading. Hid behind restructuring and boardroom politics. Now, she was crawling back with the one card she had left. Desperation. I'd like to set up a formal meeting, she continued. We believe an acquisition is in everyone's best interest. I'm sure you do, I said. You'll need to send over your books. All of them. Clean copies. No omissions. Of course. And Jennifer? Yes. I want everything Tyler touched frozen. No more data delays. No more interference with transitions. Any client that wants to leave, goes. No pushback. Understood. And the employees? They'll be evaluated. No, I said firmly. They're staying. Every one of them. I won't do to them what was done to me. She was silent. Then, I'll make sure it's part of the proposal. The next morning, Jessica and I reviewed the preliminary documents. The numbers were ugly. Client revenue had fallen by 42% in under 2 quarters. Internal churn was even worse. Half the sales team had left. The legal department had tripled its budget just trying to respond to vendor complaints. Eccentrotech was bleeding out. But their infrastructure? Still valuable. Their tech stack, ironically, the part one hadn't built, was cutting edge. And with proper leadership, it could still serve something greater. I didn't want to destroy them anymore. I wanted to absorb them. Not for revenge. But for redemption. The deal moved fast. Rendell Corp's board approved the acquisition in 30 days. The purchase was structured quietly, an asset transfer through a new holding division under our brand. But internally, everyone knew who was really behind it. By month's end, Eccentrotech no longer existed. On paper, they were now Rendell Strategic Division, Client Experience Group A. Under the leadership of Zachary Kane, Executive Vice President of Strategic Relationships. The day I returned to the office, the old warehouse where my journey began, it felt like walking through a dream. The walls were the same. The stairwell still creaked on the 4th step. But the energy? Completely different. The remaining employees, those who'd survived Tyler's reign, gathered nervously in the main conference room. They expected pink slips. Restructuring. Layoffs. Instead, I stood in front of them and said, I'm not here to clean house. I'm here to rebuild it. A ripple went through the room. I know what it feels like to be discarded. Replaced. Silenced. But that ends today. From now on, this team builds its future together, or not at all. There were tears. Nods. Relief. And for the first time in a long time, I saw something I hadn't expected to see again in this place. Hope. But poetic justice wasn't finished with me yet. A few weeks after the acquisition, my assistant buzzed my office. There's someone here to see you. No appointment. Says her name is Jennifer Murray. I looked out my glass door. There she was. Standing alone in the reception area. No power suit. No assistant. Just a woman who looked like she hadn't slept in days. I told my assistant, send her in. She stepped inside slowly. Didn't sit. Just placed a thin folder on my desk. Exit documents, she said. Final pieces of the transition. You won, Zachary. I said nothing. You always were the heart of this company. I just didn't see it in time. That's the problem, Jennifer, I said quietly. You didn't see it. And when it mattered most, you didn't even look. She nodded, eyes glassy. Good luck. You too. She left. And I never saw her again. 6 months after the acquisition, I walked into a boardroom, not as a guest, not as a survivor, but as the executive vice president of strategic relationships for the fastest-growing tech firm in the region. The table was full: Jessica, the board chair, our CFO, our legal counsel. I was there to present our quarterly numbers. Client churn, 2%. New enterprise accounts, 15. Client retention, 98.6%. Revenue growth, 37%. But the number that really made them sit up. 16 of Accenture-Tech's top 18 legacy clients had transitioned to us. No lawsuits. No hostile takeovers. Just clean, informed decisions made by people who now understood what real loyalty looked like. I closed the slide deck and said, we didn't win by stealing clients. We won by respecting them. The board chair nodded. Zachary, the board would like to extend an invitation, a permanent seat. Voting rights. Strategic oversight. I accepted with a calm smile. But inside? Inside, I remembered standing in Tyler's office. Being told I wasn't a fit for the new model. Now. I was the model. I could have stopped there. That would have been enough for most people. But I had one last thing to do. I met with the last remaining Accenture-Tech legacy staff, about 24 people who had stayed through the chaos, uncertainty, and fear. Some had been loyal to me. Others were just trying to survive. I gathered them in the same conference room where Tyler once humiliated me behind closed doors. And I said, you were never the problem. Leadership failed you. But you showed up. You endured. And that means something to me. So here's what we're doing. I rolled out the Rebuild Initiative, a program that offered guaranteed role assessments for every legacy employee. Career pathing for those who had been stagnant for years. Direct mentorship under new leadership, including myself. No more fear. No more politics. Just clarity. Growth. Respect. The room erupted in applause. Some were crying. I realized in that moment. This wasn't revenge. This was redemption. Not just for me. But for every good person that system failed. A week later, I visited my old workspace. The desk was empty now. The plaque with my name had long been removed. The walls had been repainted. But the view? The view was the same. Downtown Cincinnati. Familiar, steady, quiet. As I stood there, my phone buzzed. A message from Brian. Just read the trade announcement. EVP, huh? Proud of you, brother. They had no idea who they messed with. I smiled. Then another message came through. This one, unexpected. From an unknown number. Zachary. It's Tyler. I heard what happened. I was wrong. I get it now. If you ever need a consultant. I'm available. I stared at the screen. No anger. No gloating. Just irony. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The silence said it all. I walked through the office one last time that day, passing the awards wall. The same one that once displayed 7 plaques with my name on them. They weren't there anymore. But I didn't care. Because the real recognition wasn't wood and glass. It was in the 16 major clients who followed me out the door. The 3 former employees who now led departments of their own. The culture we rebuilt from the ground up. I didn't win by tearing down what they built. I won by showing them what it should have been all along. And in the end, truth has a way of surfacing. Even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.